A hunter returns to camp carrying an empty spear. He says the animal escaped. He says he followed it across the valley until the trail disappeared among the rocks. He says there was nothing he could do. The people around the fire look disappointed, but not surprised. Hunts fail all the time. Then a child notices fresh blood on the wooden shaft. Another person sees red stains beneath the hunter's fingernails. The hunter quickly explains that he cut his hand. But there is no wound. No police are coming. No camera recorded what happened. Nobody can search his messages or test his fingerprints. So how could ancient humans know when someone was lying? The honest answer is that they could not always know. Prehistoric people were not magical judges capable of reading minds. Some lies probably succeeded. Innocent people were probably suspected. Powerful or popular individuals may sometimes have escaped consequences while weaker people were blamed. Archaeology preserves bones, tools, footprints, campsites, and fragments of behavior. It does not preserve every accusation spoken beside a fire, but ancient humans possess several tools for judging truth, and some of those tools may have worked especially well inside a small community. Imagine the hunter is called Karo. Karo claims that he left camp at sunrise, followed an animal toward the northern ridge, threw his spear, missed, and returned directly home. It sounds simple, but his story does not exist by itself. It must fit the landscape. It must fit the time he was gone. It must fit the condition of his spear. It must fit what other people saw. Most importantly, it must fit what the group already knows about Karo. People who survived by tracking animals had to notice details that many modern people would walk past. A bent stem, disturbed soil, fresh dung, broken bark, a feather, a patch of blood, or the depth of a footprint could reveal movement through the landscape. These abilities were useful for hunting, but they could also reveal human behavior. A person capable of following a wounded animal could potentially follow a person dragging meat. Later that day, one member of the group walks toward the river and notices footprints leaving the route Karo described. The tracks turn toward a cluster of rocks. Beside them is a long mark in the dust, as though something heavy was dragged. The person follows it and finds flies gathering near a narrow crack. Inside are pieces of fresh meat covered with leaves. This does not reveal exactly what Karo was thinking. Perhaps he planned to return later. Perhaps he feared the group would divide the meat unfairly. Perhaps he wanted to feed only his family. Perhaps he believed he had earned the entire animal because he killed it alone. But one part is now clear. His story about missing the animal cannot be true. Physical evidence would not always be so convenient. Rain could erase tracks. Scavengers could move remains. Different people might interpret signs differently. Yet a lie had to survive contact with a world that left traces. Blood did not disappear because someone invented a better explanation. A hidden animal still attracted insects and predators. A person who claimed to have traveled north might return with mud found only near the southern marsh. The environment could become an unwilling witness. Time also created problems for a liar. A group familiar with the surrounding land could estimate how long a journey should take. If Karo claimed to reach a distant ridge and return far too quickly, someone might question him. If he disappeared all day but described only a short trip, the missing hours needed an explanation. Nobody needed a clock. The position of the sun, the length of shadows, changing temperature, and ordinary camp activities provided a rough sequence of events. Other people provided another source of evidence. Prehistoric groups were not made of isolated individuals who vanished into empty wilderness every morning. People traveled together, crossed paths, visited water sources, heard calls, saw smoke, and watched animals move. Karo might tell one person that he hunted beside the river, and another that he climbed the ridge. Each explanation could sound believable alone. Once the two listeners spoke to each other, the contradiction became visible. This is where ordinary conversation became extremely important. Today, the word gossip often means useless or cruel talk, but sharing information about other people can also help a community judge whom to trust. Who shares food? Who keeps promises? Who avoids difficult tasks? Who becomes aggressive when challenged? Who helped during the last shortage? Who repeatedly returns from successful areas claiming to have found nothing? A single person sees only part of another person's behavior. Conversation combines many observations. One person noticed blood on Karo's spear. Another saw him return from the wrong direction. A child saw him eating behind a rock. A relative remembers that he hid food during the previous winter. None of these facts alone proves everything. Together, they create a reputation. Reputation was not a number written beside someone's name. It lived inside other people's memories. In a small face-to-face group, the same individuals repeatedly hunted, gathered, shared meals, cared for children, moved camp, and survived danger together. A person's past behavior could shape how others interpreted a new story. If someone had shared reliably for years, the group might accept an unusual explanation. If someone had repeatedly cheated others, even an honest claim might be doubted. This created a powerful problem for liars. Karo did not only need to invent a believable event, he needed to make that event consistent with years of known behavior and with the observations of everyone around him. He might fool one person during one conversation, but the lie could travel through a network of people who compared details. That does not mean nervous behavior provided a perfect answer. Avoiding eye contact is not proof of deception. Sweating is not proof. Shaking, speaking slowly, becoming angry, or changing posture can happen because a person is frightened, embarrassed, injured, falsely accused, or simply uncomfortable. Ancient humans may have noticed unusual behavior, just as people do today, but behavior would have been only a clue. Suppose Karo stands before the group while several people question him. He sweats and looks toward the ground. That might make them suspicious, but it does not settle the matter. A better test is whether his explanation remains consistent. Where did the animal run? Toward the ridge. Which side of the ridge? The eastern side. Why were your footprints found near the river? I went there for water. Why did you say you returned directly? I forgot. Why is there blood on the spear? I cut my hand. Where is the cut? It already stopped bleeding. Why are flies gathering near the rocks? At this point, Karo may create another explanation. A lion stole the animal. Then the lion dragged it toward the river. Then heavy rain removed the lion's tracks, even though nobody remembers rain. Each new claim protects the previous one, but increases the number of details that must remain consistent. The group does not need a formal interrogation room. People can ask questions during food preparation, walking, or conversation around the fire. They can ask again later and notice whether important details change. They can visit the location themselves. They can compare Karo's account with the accounts of his companions. The method is imperfect, but it combines material traces, social observation, memory, and repeated questioning. Why would lying matter so much? Because survival depended on cooperation. A large animal could provide valuable food, but one hunter often could not use, carry, protect, and preserve everything alone. Group members shared risks and resources. They watched children, treated injuries, defended camps, exchanged knowledge, and supported people during periods of failure. A person who secretly took benefits while refusing to contribute could weaken that system. Food hiding was not necessarily viewed the same way in every society or situation. People could have personal possessions, family obligations, different sharing rules, and disagreements over ownership. There was no single prehistoric law code used everywhere, but deception about resources could become dangerous when others depended on honest information. Imagine Karo hides meat while children in camp go hungry. The immediate loss is food. The deeper loss is trust. The next time Karo reports animal tracks, fewer people may follow him. The next time he asks for help carrying a carcass, nobody may volunteer. If he is injured, people may hesitate before spending food and effort to support him. His lie changes future cooperations. Punishment did not need to mean execution or violent exile. Those outcomes would be extremely costly and cannot be assumed from every conflict. More ordinary consequences could include ridicule, criticism, anger, reduced sharing, closer monitoring, fewer cooperative partners, or exclusion from an important activity. Others might refuse to hunt with him or stop trusting him with stored food. A talented hunter who loses reliable partners can become far less successful. Humor may also have been a social weapon. Imagine Karo claiming that two giant lions stole his animal while everyone can see a strip of meat falling from the back of his clothing. Laughter makes the contradiction public. A joke repeated around the fire can attach itself to his reputation. Long after the meat is eaten, people may still imitate the expression on his face when he was caught. Yet the story can become darker. Suppose the following week Karo runs toward camp shouting that a predator is approaching. Nobody believes him. They assume he is inventing another excuse. This time he is telling the truth. A damaged reputation does not only harm the liar. It can make the whole group slower to respond to real information. That possibility explains why communities also needed to control accusations. Gossip could spread useful warnings, but it could also carry mistakes, jealousy, or deliberate deception. Someone might accuse a successful hunter to damage a rival. A respected person could repeat a false rumor. Several people could confidently remember the same event incorrectly. Social information is powerful precisely because it can affect who receives help, food, respect, and protection. The person spreading an accusation therefore placed part of their own reputation at risk. If someone repeatedly delivered false information, others could learn not to trust that person either. A community did not only judge the accused, it also judged the accuser, the witness, and everyone who passed the story forward. There was another complication. Not every lie harmed the group. Someone might hide a surprise gift, protect a frightened child, conceal private knowledge, avoid revealing another person's location, exaggerate a story for entertainment, or mislead an enemy. Humans do not evaluate deception only by asking whether the statement is false. They also ask who benefits, who is harmed, and why the truth was hidden. A person who deceived a dangerous rival might be praised. A person who deceived hungry companions to keep all the food might be condemned. The same mental ability could protect the group in one situation and exploit it in another. The real issue was not simply lying. It was whether the deception damaged relationships on which survival depended. Return to Karo beside the fire. The hidden meat has been found. His story has changed several times. People remember earlier incidents. Nobody has read his mind, and no single clue revealed the truth. Instead, the group assembled many pieces: blood, tracks, timing, conflicting statements, witnesses, and reputation. The group divides the recovered meat. Karo receives less, or perhaps nothing. For several days, nobody chooses him as a hunting partner. When he speaks, people listen more carefully. His movements are watched. Repairing that damage may take much longer than telling the lie did. He may need to share generously during the next hunt. He may help an injured companion, admit what happened, or repeatedly prove that his future reports are reliable. Trust can be lost in a moment and rebuilt only through visible behavior. So how did ancient humans know when someone was lying? Often they did not. But they did not need supernatural instincts. They read the physical world. They compared stories. They remembered past behavior. They shared information. They watched whether words matched actions over time. Modern humans possess cameras, written records, digital locations, and scientific tests. Yet many of us interact every day with strangers who know almost nothing about our habits. Ancient humans had fewer investigative tools, but they often lived among people who had watched them for years. A lie could fool one listener. The difficult part was fooling the tracks, the witnesses, the landscape, and an entire community that remembered who you had always been.